Hello and welcome to 177 Mental Toughness Secrets of the World Class. The thought processes, habits, and philosophies of the great ones. My name is Bill Adams. Like many of you, I've been lucky enough in my life to experience the work of Steve Siebold. Mental toughness has been the secret to success for the great ones, the world-class performers in any arena. It's been Steve's mission to master the mental toughness skills of the world class through a lifetime of experience and work, bring what he's learned to us. Now there's no excuse. There's no excuse for you or for me not to master these skills as well, because Steve is in the studio right now. Now, not just to read a copy of this book. It's a lot more than that. He's here to give us the insights into the significance of these mental toughness secrets, and more importantly, to tell us how to apply these skills to our own lives, to begin thinking, acting, and performing like champions right now. Steve, thanks for everything you've done.
Well, thanks, Bill. I appreciate that introduction. I got to say, though, I don't know if I've mastered any of these these things, but I've figured them out. I've gleaned them over the years from these world-class performers, the people we call the great ones, and it's a process. It really is. It's a work in progress. So
it's a work in progress, but what you got is pretty good so far, brother. Let me tell you.
And you said it, Bill. There's really, now that all of us know these things, there's really no excuse. We have no excuses left. Now we just have to follow the map.
The map is here, right before us right now. I think it's time to get going. You ready?
I'm ready.
Mental toughness secret number 1. The world class operates from objective reality.
In 20 years of competing, coaching, and working with performers from various fields, I've discovered most amateurs suffer from mild to severe delusion in relation to their efforts and competencies. In other words, most people delude themselves into thinking they are working harder than they are and that they're more competent than they actually are. Of the 5 major levels of conscious awareness, which are poverty, working, middle, upper, and world class, my experience has been that performers at the middle class levels of consciousness suffer the grandest delusions. The poverty level is barely surviving and living in a very harsh set of circumstances. The working class is punching a mental time clock and counting the days until retirement. They're usually not expecting much, and no one around them expects much either. They're typically not concerned about climbing any higher. It's the middle class that is most incongruent with reality. They're operating at a high enough level of awareness to understand that higher levels exist. Although they don't expect to get there, the thought crosses their minds from time to time. Because of their low expectations, their actions are incongruent with their desires. In other words, they want to live the life of the world class, but are unwilling to pay the price. Since this reality is too harsh to bear, they delude themselves into thinking they're doing everything in their power to get ahead. Of course, they're not. They'll tell you they're putting in far more time than they are. They'll swear they're thinking about their vision all the time, but they're not. The world class is brutally honest with themselves, and they tend to look reality in the face. They err on the side of over-practicing and over-preparing. Champions know that to ascend to the top, you must first be operating from a mindset of objective reality. Self-deception and delusion have no place in the professional performer's consciousness.
Here's a quote that cements exactly what you're talking about. And lo and behold, look who it's from, Steve Siebold.
Hey,
I know that guy.
Me too.
This is what you said yourself. Amateur performers operate from delusion. Pros operate from objective reality. The great ones' habits, actions, and behaviors are totally congruent with the size and scope of their ultimate vision. That's why we call them champions. You mentioned a very important phrase in there, ultimate vision. You've got to have that ahead of you in order to become a champion. It might be even step 1, right?
It's a blueprint. It's like building a house or any kind of building. You need a blueprint. You need a drawing to do it.
How do we get this ultimate vision? What's the action step?
The first thing you do is identify exactly what you want, emotionally speaking. You know, what's driving you emotionally? Maybe this is a better way to say it. What feelings do you want to create in your life? In other words, you buy the car, not because of the car, but the feeling, because of the feeling it gives you when you drive the car or the home.
Exactly. How will that make me feel?
Exactly.
Make a commitment to check delusion at the door. Be honest and ask this critical thinking question. Are my habits, actions, and behaviors congruent with the vision I have for my life? That's a pretty good step to take, first of all, isn't it?
No question about it. Here's a world-class resource for you. Get a copy of a book called Leadership and Self-Deception. It's by the Arbinger Institute. This book made me re-examine my entire belief system. It's a must-have for your mental toughness library. Now, before we go on, Bill, I'd just like to explain. A second ago, I talked about the levels of awareness, the 5 levels of conscious awareness. And let me just say this. For those of you who've studied this type of thing before, you know that we all know that there are thousands of levels of consciousness. But I've broken it down just into 5 major levels that I've seen over the years with performers. And the lowest level would be, again, poverty class consciousness. This is, when I say poverty, when I say working class, when I say middle class, upper class, or world class, I don't mean socioeconomic. Although money does tend to follow, like other areas of life, like health, like any other part of life that's important, relationships, they do tend to follow. Results do tend to follow thinking or consciousness, and I'm interchanging the words thinking and consciousness as well. So the lowest level, 5% of the population, we call poverty class consciousness. They're thinking at a very low level of consciousness. A little bit higher up, about 10% of the population, we consider working class consciousness. And above that, the middle class consciousness, which is about 70% as an estimation of the population. Right above that, upper class consciousness, which is about 10% of the population. These are your high performers, but people really rooted in ego. And the higher level, the highest level, the great ones operate from what we call world-class consciousness, which, liberally speaking, is about 5%. It's probably a little bit lower than that, but we wanted to be generous on this one and say 5%.
There'll be a lot more after they hear this, right?
I hope so.
That's the goal. But I know why you're talking about this first off, right off the bat, is to set the tone for what we're going to be talking about throughout this entire program. And I don't want to move on anymore, Steve, any further without really making more distinctions between the middle class and the world class. There are really, you've identified 25 distinctions here. Do me a favor, just go through all of them right now, just so that we can set the tone for what we're really trying to learn.
Okay, great. Well, there are the 25, and here they are. The middle class competes. The world class creates. And you'll notice during the course of this recording, we're going to keep comparing the middle class to the world class, because the middle class is where most of us are. I know I've spent almost my entire life in middle-class consciousness, so I consider myself an expert in this area.
You're not alone.
Yeah, and I do it on a daily basis, and I'm, like all of us, pushing forward, trying to move to the world class. But it's an ongoing struggle as we'll talk about during the course of this book. But we're going to keep comparing the middle class to the world class, because that's where most of us are, and that's where most of us, and the world class is where most of us want to go.
That's right.
So the second one is the middle class avoids risk. The world class manages risk. Number 3, the middle class lives in delusion. The world class lives in objective reality. Number 4, the middle class loves to be comfortable. The world class is comfortable being uncomfortable. Number 5, the middle class has a lottery mentality. The world class has an abundance mentality. Number 6, the middle class hungers for security. The world class doesn't believe security exists. Number 7, the middle class sacrifices growth for safety. The world class sacrifices safety for growth. Number 8, the middle class operates out of fear and scarcity. The world class operates from love and abundance. Number 9, the middle class focuses on having. The world class focuses on being. Number 10, the middle class sees themselves as victims. The world class sees themselves as responsible. Number 11, the middle class slows down. The world class calms down. Number 12, the middle class is frustrated. The world class is grateful. Number 13, the middle class has pipe dreams. The world class has vision. Number 14, the middle class is ego-driven. The world class is spirit-driven. Number 15, the middle class is problem-oriented. The world class is solution-oriented. Number 16, the middle class thinks they know enough. The world class is eager to learn. Number 17, the middle class chooses fear. The world class chooses growth. Number 18, the middle class is boastful. The world class is humble. Number 19, the middle class trades time for money. The world class trades ideas for money. Number 20, the middle class denies their intuition. The world class embraces their intuition. 21, the middle class seeks riches. The world class seeks wealth. 22, the middle class believes their vision only when they see it. The world class knows they will see their vision when they believe it. 23, the middle class coaches through logic. The world class coaches through emotion. 24, the middle class speaks the language of fear. The world class speaks the language of love. And number 25, the middle class believes problem solving stems from knowledge. The world class believes problem solving stems from will.